49T, Hate Incitement Bill 2022. You're very welcome back. I'm going to look at this bill on the incitement to hatred and violence. I don't have any problem with incitement to violence. I don't think the two should be in the one. It was always an offence to incite people to violence. I think that it's a mean act for them to put in violence together with other things. So it says an act to amend the law relating to the prohibition and incitement to violence or hatred against a person or group of persons on account of certain characteristics. And what they do is they define the characteristics which apply. And we just go down to it here fairly fast, and it's race. Well, the question about race is, what about Ireland? What about the 20% of people that I don't like for voting for Fianna Fáil, who preserve Fianna Fáil, who preserve Fine Gael in power, when we had the Madeleine Laundries, when it took the Northern Spotlight programme to expose the clerical abuse? Why am I not entitled to be angry and express that anger to my own countrymen for allowing this? A lot of them didn't give two damns. A lot of them are going to go out and vote for these political parties again, and I have condemned them roundly. I condemned them to their face, and I condemned them on my YouTube channel. Now, so the question is on this race is, I don't have really a problem with a person from some other country like China or from Mexico or anything else, but then we're being told, Russia, we must hate the Russians. How come I must now hate the Russians? Who decides that? So essentially, if you stand up and said, big bad Russia, I hate Russians, I hate the Russian president, you can do that. You turn around and you say the same about Ukraine and you'll be jailed. And when Trump was in power, you could hate Trump. And when he was put out, you had to love Biden. I don't buy it. I don't buy this thing about race. Surely it would be very wrong, a young African chap going up the street after coming from school, for someone to shout abuse and hate at him, go home, you this, that and the other. Like, that is horrible. I would stand up for that chap. That's not right, and that's a form of bullying. And in fact, there was an incident of that in Cavan, a little chap called Heaslip who was bullied to this degree. So, but he was Irish. So implicit in this is that this race is a race from other countries. And the problem is, what if you don't want a mass migration, as Eamon Ryan wants 5 million people coming here? Will they outlaw that? Colour. Yeah, well, I suppose I have 40 cattle, and I don't regard the colour of them any significance at all. Nationality. Well, again, I bring the point, what about the Irish? There should be a section in it exempting Ireland from the hate laws, because I hate some Irish people. I hate 15% of them. I love about 50%. And but there's these people who do this deportation, and they elect the Greens. I went up personally with 80 other people, and we campaigned door to door to put Alex White out, the Labour Minister. We campaigned. How will that come in? Well, I'd be worried about it. Now, religion. Well, what if the religion is to cut your head off? Why is religion given a blank check? Surely it should be moderate religion, or religion that does not involve incitement. I mean, ISIS was cutting the heads of people. You're supposed to love them. National or ethnic origin. Well, I mean, there are certain countries that there are question marks. This is why I want migrants vetted and proper controls. We're letting them in by right from one country, and we put them out from South America, where they have shown they're good people. National or ethnic origins. National or ethnic origin. This is all part of the mass migration policy. If there was only a moderate amount of those, there'd be no problem. Now, again, I do believe that we need laws to protect anyone, Chinese or anything else. You cannot have people, particularly young people, being abused by yobos, and they would do that. I mean, I was a countryman in Dublin years ago, and working in Dublin, and the Dublin workers would abuse me. So gender, in this day and age, gender, it shouldn't matter whether you criticise another man or another woman, or say women are good or women are bad or anything like that. That should be your business. It should not be subject to law. Sex characteristics. Well, what if there's a fella there in America, and he comes in. He's a drag artist, and he's transgender. He says, and he wears a big pair of boobs, artificial boobs, and he has a big skirt on him, and he goes up to young kids and he invites them to run the hand up his inside leg. What's the sex characteristics? Sexual orientation. Well, I voted for the same sex, the marriage equality, and the 1995 law made it a criminal offence for sex between men or between women, I think, as well. And that was wrong. That wasn't right. I don't have a problem with that. Mine is I couldn't give two damns what sex they are. If it's my bull, I don't want them to be gay because I'll have no calves. But other than that, I don't give two damns. There's no need to legislate for this. A disability. When did anyone ever see a person in a wheelchair or a person who is physically handicapped or mentally handicapped? I've never seen it. I've never seen it. Perhaps maybe there'd be call for legislation where a person is handicapped mentally, maybe, but physically. It's not a problem. This is nanny statism. This is setting down in law something which is not a problem, in my opinion. Now, there are certain areas be very, very, very adamant that a Chinese chap coming home from school should not be abused by Irish people. I would be very supportive of that, or that type of thing. Or if a family move into a housing estate and the mother and the little kids and maybe the father, and maybe go home, I'll pack you and this kind of thing, or go home, this, and calling you N-words and all that. I don't like that myself. I would not have a problem with that if that was all that was in it. And then there's the traveller community, you see, and they come in about the travellers. They're being outmanoeuvred now by travellers from abroad, and we should only let in vet. We can have a certain amount of travellers, and they're trying to come up in the world, and we should make it possible. We won't make that possible by filling the country full of migrants of any type. And gender means a person, the gender of a person, or the gender which person expresses as the person's preferred gender, or which the person identifies and includes transgender and gender. You see, this is the transgender LBGBQ crap coming in. There's no need for this. If a person wants to dress up as a woman, well, go ahead if that's what you want to do. But this is all looking for notice, a lot of it. And I mean, it's not necessary to do. This is the modern woke culture. It's not necessary. Have anyone shown it? What evidence have we of this? Sexual orientation has the same meaning as the Equality Act. Sexual orientation. Well, why is there a problem? I know homosexual men and women working in several places, and I don't see any bother. And funny enough, the ordinary working areas is where they get the best tolerance. I mean, all right, I'm not too worried about the sexual orientation. I don't think we should have shouting, you're only an old queer or a faggot. I don't like that stuff. I mean, there was a song which was hailed for years. It's coming up at Christmas, your man, The Fairy Tale of New York, and he says, you deep, lousy faggot. And it was hailed by RTE until about 2 years ago, and now it'll not be played this Christmas at all. But it was meant, that's the way working people spoke. Reference to sex characteristics shall be construed as reference to the physical and biological features of a person relating to sex. That's meaningless. That's crap. Meaningless. Disability. I don't know. Is there any need for disability legislation? Prohibition of incitement to the Hateful Act is appealed, and there's a bit about expenses, and then there's about transmitting what information means, and material is capable of being looked at, read, or watched. So that's my YouTube channel. They're going to be watching my YouTube channel straight away. Now remember too, in Ireland, no regulator works. No regulator. I tested every regulator. The advertising regulator, the financial regulator over the company's office, company accounts, and none of them work. None of them work at all. There's no such thing as regulation unless, again, you're into one of these LGBTQ characteristics. If you're in that category, you get everything. But if you're in my category, you get nothing. They won't even answer access to information on the environment requests till I force it out of them. Force it out of them. A public place means any place to which the public have access, whether by right or by permission, or whether subject to or free of charge. And that's taken directly out of the Road Traffic Act 1961. and then they have reasonable and genuine contribution in relation to literary, artistic, political, scientific, religious, or academic discourse means the contribution that is considered by a reasoned person to be reasonably necessary or accidental or incidental to such discourse. What a load of absolute balcom. What a load of mucked up, stupid, confused minds. For the purposes of this part, a person shall be regarded as communicating material to the public or section of the public if the displayer, distributor disseminates material, shows it or displays it, or makes material available which in any way for use of information. Why don't they come after all the pornography that's on the internet? I mean, 20 years ago, an old book bought in a filling station in England and brought in here, one could be prosecuted. And now the internet's walking alive with all kinds of gross pornography. Why don't they attack it? For the purpose of this section, a person's behaviour shall include behaviour of any kind, and in particular things that the person says or otherwise communicates, as well as things that the person does, and such behaviour may consist of a single act or a course of conduct. Well, they're well pinned down. Now, offences of incitement to violence or hatred. So again, any person who communicates any material to the public or a section of the public behaves in a public way, behaves in public in a manner that is likely to incite violence. Well, I have no problem with violence. I don't want to see anyone inciting violence. I think it's already a crime to do that. I mean, there's Violent Disorder Act, and that's all there. So why are they duplicating this? Why are they doubling it down? Right, likely to incite violence or hatred against a person or group of persons on account of their protected characteristics. So this is to stop protests outside the migrant centres and the taking over of our culture and the horsing in of thousands and thousands of migrants into Ireland. They're going to try and use this to jail us. That's the problem. That's what they're trying to do. Does so with intent to incite violence? Well, no, we're not talking about attacking violence. We can never condone getting people to go in to attack a building or burn a building. That's what the Ukrainians did when the Russians looked for their rights in Odessa. They ran them into a big building and they drove them out the top window and killed them. We can never ever agree to that. And in fairness to An Garda Síochána, in Ukraine, the government told the police not to intervene. The Gardaí would intervene in that situation. So we have to be fair about it. Any of those characters being reckless as to whether such violence or hatred is incited. I would make the complete distinction between violence and communicating your opinion. It shall not be an offence under this section for relevant service provider within the meaning of the European Communities Direction 2031 EC. See them quoting the directive. But when it's on the environment and the protection of the environment, they have refused consistently, have made videos on this, to abide by those directives. Regulation 203, Statutory Instrument 68 of 2003, to do an act to which regulations this and that of the regulator applies if the requirements of the regulation concerned for liability not to apply are satisfied. The point is they're pointing to a European directive when it suits them, or a European regulation when it suits them, and they won't do it when it doesn't suit them. In any proceeding for an offence under this section, it shall be a defence to prove that the material concerned, or insofar as appropriate, the behaviour concerned, consists of solely a reasonable and genuine contribution to literary my backside, artistic, more of it. This is just for plays and that. Political. Well, that could be good. What I'm doing is highly political. Highly political. I am out to change the entire perception of the public towards the corrupt government. I make no apologies for it, only getting rid of as many of those jerks as possible. Do we ever see any future for ourselves? Scientific or religious or academic discourse. All right, you can have a bit of discourse. The key there to me is political. What is political and what isn't? And I'm glad to see it there. I wouldn't be surprised if it's been taken out. If it will, I don't know. A statement that is the subject of defence of absolute privilege. That's absolute privilege occurs in the Dáil and all that. That's irrelevant to this. Material or behaviour, as the case may be, that is necessary for the lawful purpose, including law enforcement and investigation or prosecution of an offence, irrelevant to us. In any proceedings for an offence under this section, it shall be an offence for a body corporate to prove, as respects the communication of material by the body corporate, that it has a reasonable and effective measures in place to prevent communication generally of material of incitement to violence or hatred. So if you're running a company, you can't have people ringing up others and saying, don't work with that fella down there, or he's from Azerbaijan. That's all right, but we don't need this. This is already contained in the law. It did not know. It did not know of any reason to suspect that. Yeah, if it didn't know about it, this is about body corporates, companies. A person guilty of an offence, so it's a class 1 prison, 12 months, not exceeding 12 months, a conviction on indictment, that means with a judge and jury, a fine or imprisonment not exceeding 5 years or both. So it's pretty stiff. Offence of condonation, denial, or gross trivialization of genocide against persons account of their protected characteristics. So this would be the Holocaust. There's no doubt the Holocaust took place, but the United States killed thousands. Killed thousands. The British in Northern Ireland didn't exactly protect the nationalists in Bloody Sunday and all that. So where does it stop? Will I be convicted for saying Russia had grounds for invading Ukraine? See, who decides? Communicates material to the public or a section of the public, or behaves in public or place and manner that condones, denies, or grossly trivializes genocide. What is genocide? Is abortion not a form of genocide? This is the problem. Crimes against humanity. Who decides what's against humanity? Is abortion not against humanity? What about my rights? What about the genocide and the destruction of my environment? A crime against humanity. A war crime. Who decides that? An act specified in Article 6 of Chapter of the International Military Tribunal. I wouldn't worry about that. But there are a considerable amount of people in Ireland who believe Russia is right. Russia is right. So this is about denying the Holocaust. I think the Irish people should be let to discuss the Holocaust. I have no doubt some of the things that happened, the gas chambers, that all happened. That was unbelievable. And I have to hand it to De Valera. During the war, he allowed a good lot of Jewish people sneak in. And he was right. He did it nice and quietly. He just let them sneak in. I think he was actually Jewish if you got his real father. Himself, he was half Jewish, but fair enough. But I think I applaud that. If he saved a few lives, it was a nice thing to do. But I don't think at this stage we should have our history dictated to us, where such communication of material or behaviour is directed against a person or group of persons on account of their protected characteristics or any of those characteristics, and is done with intent to incite violence or hatred against such a person or such a group of persons on account of these characteristics or any of those characteristics. But I maintain we'll have to get to a point where anyone that comes here illegally will have to be sent back. That's what happens in Malta. So when I say send that fella back home, oh no, you're going to be in jail. See, this is the problem. This is all right if these people were properly assessed and properly brought in here, but that's not the case. These could be outrageous criminals. People have already been murdered by immigrants into Ireland because they have not been assessed. A person guilty of an offence shall be liable to a conviction, 12 months and fine, and all that. So to go on then, a lot of stuff there, and I'll not go into it here because I'm near the end of my time. I think I've made a point about it. Provision relating to offences under Section 8. A person found guilty of an offence under Section 7 and 8, irrespective of whether the communication of material or behaviour the subject of the offence was successful in exciting another person to hatred against a person or group or persons on account of their protected characteristics within the meaning of the section. This is all just a trimming up. Some provision offences knew that the material contained, understood the material contained, made the material available on a platform, that's my channel, that it may be accessible by members of the public. You see, they're trying to clamp down on YouTube. In any proceedings for an offence of this section, an accused person may rebut the presumption raised in subsection 2 by showing that at the time of the alleged offence, he or she did not know the material communicated would be available to the public. I know it's available. I know exactly what I'm saying. I am not a savage, and we don't need this. and then they come and search in your house. Offence of preparing or possessing material likely to incite hatred against persons on account of their protected characteristics. But I'm not a protected characteristics. Why shouldn't I be? I'm under attack. I'm a farmer. I'm under attack from data centers. So the point is now, the next thing is, oh, you even have the material. These pieces of paper can get you into jail. Preparation or possession of material that is likely to incite violence or hatred against other groups. Well, what I have been doing here, it could be interpreted as doing this. I'm not particularly a hatred against the groups. They're coming here for to get what they can. I'm doing this to get at the politicians who are doing it. Preparers of the material intent to incite violence or hatred against any such person or groups. Don't forget, we have a man in jail tonight, Enoch Burke, for refusing to call a boy they. Any proceedings for an offence under this section, it shall be a defence to prove that the material solely contained of a reasonable and genuine contribution. Well, literally political. That's not good enough, I'm afraid. It's not a good enough reason. It has to be more than political. It has to be genuinely felt. If you want something stopped, you want a change in the law, you're entitled to have it. So now, after your material, after a book you're writing, or you're writing a book or something, or you're preparing a video. See, now then they have protection of freedom of expression. For the purposes of this act, any material or behaviour is not taken to incite violence or hatred against a person or a group of persons on account of their protected characteristics or any such characteristics solely on the basis that the material or behaviour includes and involves discussion or criticisms of matters relating to protected characteristic. So that is all gobbledygook. In other words, all we said above, it doesn't matter. If, just to show you again what it says, for the purpose of this part, any material or behaviour is not taken to incite violence or hatred against a person or a group of persons on account of their protected characteristics or any of those characteristics solely on the basis that the material or behaviour includes or involves discussion or criticism of matters relating to a protected characteristic. So how do you square that what's written above? How do you square what's written above? That'll do for now. Search warrants. Oh, search warrant. Judge of the district court satisfied information notes of a member what is that? A member of the Garda Síochána? Probably is. That there are reasonable grounds for suspecting that evidence in relation to the commission of an offence under these sections above is to be found in any place. The judge at any may issue a warrant for the search of the place and any persons found in that place. So it doesn't matter that it's there or not. The fact that I am making these videos and the fact that I am part of this protest could see me searched. A search warrant shall operate to authorise the named member, accompanied by such members or persons both members thinks fit, to enter at any time within a week of the warrant, to search it and any persons found in that place, and to examine and seize any material found. The authority conferred in that to seize and retain anything includes a case of a document or record of a record authority to make or retain a copy of the document and all that. So now you see what they're doing. There's going to be a power to search your premises and search anywhere they want. Or search warrant, it may operate any computer, require any person or place to appear and to give the member any password necessary, otherwise to enable a member to examine the information and to produce any information. A member acting under the authority of such search warrant. Now, I have here a computer with the law itself on it. Is that going to be one? A person who obstructs and all that, that's all right. So now they have a suspicion of being into this, the same as having a bomb, or the same as after robbing the bank, or having some weapon or some other thing, or having child pornography. They're putting the likes of ordinary people in the same category as they are criminals. For what? For what? On the mere suspicion of a member. That must be a member of the Garda Síochána. On the mere suspicion, they can come out and do this. And what are they looking for? What exactly are they looking for? So it's This is frightening stuff, in my opinion. It's not necessary. We have a good lot of people of foreign nationality here, Polish, Africans, and everything else. I don't see any problem with this. This is the nanny state. The nanny state. This is the extension of the New World Order, the World Economic Forum, the U.S. Democratic Party, the Bidens, the Hillary Clintons, and all of this. That is exactly what it is. There may be slight tweaks needed, but like everything else, uh, a person, another wee section here, just on a second. A person shall be guilty of an offence under this section if he or she commits an offence under section 2, which is aggravated by hatred for the purpose of this section. So that would be hitting somebody. A person guilty of an offence under this section shall be liable to summary conviction to a Class B fine. In other words, if you hit someone because you're supposed to hate them for their characteristic, that's serious. What about me? Or what about an old woman walking home? An old Irish woman? Why is there an increased cause of hatred? Why is there an increased penalty when it's this characteristic over our own? And here is the making a preference of the stranger, the migrant, and all of these over the likes of ordinary people. This is the key to them. I've said this before. They hate. This ideology hates their own people. Folks, I'll leave it at that, and give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I'm sorry for it being so long. I'm reading legislation, and we'll talk to you and we'll see you back for something else. Thank you.